There we are. Welcome into another post-game show here on TigerBait Live. LSU defeats ULM. What was it, 27-14?
Yeah, if you even paid enough attention for that.
It very much a lackluster performance. Obviously, there was hardly anybody in the stands in Tiger Stadium tonight. The scenes as the camera panned throughout the game looked awful. Of course, LSU releases a number that's not accurate as far as they give you the paid attendance, but they're not going to come anywhere close to giving you the actual
92,000?
Yeah, right.
That's a joke.
LSU gets the win, but there was nothing eventful or special about that football game, and a lot of people were disgusted. I know in our TigerBait game chat that we do each week, the fans and TigerBait subscribers were disgruntled throughout the whole thing. Then when you look in the box score, and Max Johnson really doesn't look that bad in the box score. His quarterback rating isn't that bad. But at the end of the night, you really should put away a team like ULM. The fake punt that gave them basically a free touchdown, that and a lot more. We can talk about that tonight. And of course, we've got a lot to talk about as far as coaches that were playing today that we've been talking about in relation to the LSU head coaching job. And Mario Cristobal and Utah did last week. It was Baylor who did LSU a favor with Oklahoma. And now it's Utah that maybe does Oklahoma a favor. But no. Cristobal laid a big egg tonight at Oregon. So, he's been a guy that's been near the top of my list, if not number one throughout. So we got that to talk about. So, Preston, what do you think, man?
Man, first off, that had to be, and look, I don't blame any LSU fans at all, but that was probably the most empty seats I've seen in Tiger Stadium in quite a while, in this millennium, let's put it like that. I thought about 2015 South Carolina, that flood game, when it was at South Carolina and then they had to move it and they only sold 42,000 seats, but I'm going to be honest, I think that was less than that game. I think this was very empty. And the team played to that. I mean, they played very dull. What really stands out is 27-14 is your final score. They had two plays, fourth and goal, one at the 1, one at the 2-yard line, where essentially the quarterback, what's the coach's last name there?
Rodriguez.
Rhett Rodriguez, right. He overthrows his receivers on wide open plays, and they turn the ball back over to LSU. So very well, ULM could have pulled the upset tonight. That's very plausible. But execution errors and just a lifeless team out there.
And LSU letting them linger around.
Yeah, and questions arise tonight. If this team pulls one off for Ogeron, right? Final game in Tiger Stadium against Texas A&M next week. Let's say they put all the energy into it. He was a championship coach. Let's send him off good, and they go 6-6 and they're bowl eligible. Major questions arise of, do they accept a bowl bid?
I think you accept a bowl bid, but I think there's multiple layers to. The fact of the matter is Ed Orgeron's deal with LSU and his buyout deal ends on December 1. And so that Sunday night when they had the joint press conference and Orgeron said he would coach a bowl, that wasn't true. So that's something that they would have to work out. I think it might depend on who the coach is, the next hire is, and do you have him about to get rolled out? And depending on which bowl it might be and what are the dates of those practices, do you maybe allow the new coach to essentially get almost like a second spring practice with the team? Is that something you would do? But really, your current assistant coaches and coordinators are still on the payroll, so they would still be the coaches.
Yeah. It'd be really weird to figure out, which leads me to believe that it'd be way cleaner to just decline it. But on the other hand, you're talking about having your program go 2 straight years without a bowl game.
But also it also gives you an opportunity in an incentive with some of these recruits that are midterm grads where they can participate in bowl practices.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that helps.
Sure.
That's another feather. To me, I don't think you turn it down.
And I don't think you should either.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of questions in the air about, swapping out that coaching search. Do you want Ogeron around? Because you're probably going to have your coach hired before any bowl game. I mean, almost certainly you would. I mean, you might not be playing in a January bowl game.
I disagree with some out there. I've heard some people suggest that Woodward might go well to late December, January. I disagree. I think either it's going to be Sunday, Monday, November 28th, 29th, or maybe no later than what's the following Monday, the 6th.
Yeah.
I don't think you go much longer than that.
Yeah.
And then you got basically, if you go to the 6th, you've got a little over a week until National Signing Day.
That's all contingent on, is your guy in the conference championship? Because if your guy, which, let's be honest, no one really knows who Scott Woodward's guy is. Nobody truly, honestly knows that.
Yeah.
I'm sure he does at this point. But who is that guy? And very likely he will be in a conference championship. So you would want to move pretty darn quickly after that.
So let me scroll through real quick.
Yeah,
I got a bunch of
comments. Go ahead.
Rick Kelly, hey Mike, great show. Does Mullen keep his job? I tend to think he doesn't.
Yeah.
But man, that's a tricky situation.
A lot of Kiffin to Florida buzz.
Yep. Eric DeLyon, the offense most of the time just looks so anemic. Comment out of rhythm and without a clue of really what the major on. Okay, Eric, not sure. Mark Chambers, Coach Bowden had ULM ready. Daniel Glenn, good evening and go Tigers. Greg Price, I'm so disappointed with the team. Since Curly Hallman. Most disappointed you've been since Hallman, boy.
This is the worst season since Hallman.
Eric DeLine, I was at the game for the first time in my life. I left at halftime. What a horrible game to watch. Kenny Haynes, of course, our title sponsor of the show, Kenneth P. Haynes, and attorney at law in Shreveport. After that pathetic game, I expect this to be our lowest rated show. I think you might be right. Between
Maybe
an 8 o'clock kickoff, ULM, and a poor performance, I think what you saw in the stands through most of the game, and certainly in the second half, is probably going to be indicative of our audience tonight. Probably a lot of people have switched on Netflix already.
Yeah.
Mark Chambers, our offensive play selection can kick rocks. Yeah.
That's rough.
Samuel Hostin, the guys we're thinking about next week and not interested in this game. Thinking about next week as far as Texas A&M or Thanksgiving Day fried turkey, Cajun injected, or are you going beyond that and saying they're already thinking about who the next coach is going to be?
They're already talking about Lincoln.
Or maybe it's all three. Thanksgiving dinner, A&M, and the new coach.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of all for them. It's got to be. I mean, a lot of distractions this week.
Mark Chambers, Orgeron should not coach in the bowl game. American Patriot, this was the first LSU game I really didn't watch in a couple of years. Yeah. I had it on but didn't watch it. It was so boring.
Really hard to watch. I agree with you 100%.
Gregory Price, Orgeron can get out now. He's dragging us down the toilet. Frank Walls, they need to be gone. Mark Chambers, think we will have the new coach after Saturday's game.
Look, let's be honest. The time frame you should probably expect to have a new coach, I would say the earliest would be Friday. The absolute earliest.
What you really need to do is look at each coach on the list, who are the guys that we're mainly talking about. So if you're going Lincoln Riley, Cristobal, Napier, some people are wanting to talk about Brian Kelly at Notre Dame a bit more.
Yeah. Although he's in the playoff mix.
Certainly Luke Fickell, after what happened with Oregon tonight, I think they're getting excited. Where might they fall in the CFP?
Yeah.
And
look, the theme we've been talking about.
So
the last couple weeks.
What do those teams have left? What conference championship games?
Mm-hmm.
Several schools I've already just named are in conference championship games.
And look, next week, if you're a Lincoln Riley fan, which I'm a Lincoln Riley fan, and a lot of people, I'd say he's probably the fan favorite. You better be rooting for Oklahoma State and Bedlam next week. I mean, you need someone to do you a favor, because that door that was opened by Dave Aranda and Baylor last week, kind of got shut a little tighter today with some big teams losing. What big teams
What
lost?
is it Oklahoma State they have next week?
Yeah, they have Bedlam. Yeah.
Okay,
that's
yeah,
right.
okay, there you go. Yeah, so
I believe, if I'm
and
not
Oklahoma
mistaken,
State's dangerous.
I haven't looked at the updated Big 12 standards, but I believe the winner of that game would go on to face Baylor in the Big 12 championship.
Well,
now,
then,
someone with the standings in front of them at home,
so
correct
pull
me
for the,
if you
pull
please.
for the mullet then.
Yeah, you're pulling for the mullet, and quite frankly, I'm not sure they're not the better football team. Because,
Yeah, no, they're playing
again,
well.
Oklahoma struggled. I just think Oklahoma's having a couple problems this year, but I still think Lincoln Riley's an incredible coach. Do you want to go through coaching update scores?
Yeah, go ahead real quick.
All right, let's go through them. Pick some comments out while I'm doing this. The Fighting Mike Scarborough's Mario Cristobal and the Oregon Ducks got blasted today, 38-7. That door is wide open. If you want Cristobal, he's yours. 2 losses, probably out of the playoff. Mel Tucker and the Michigan State Spartans. I wonder if they're going to pull back that 10-year, $95 million contract we've all been talking about. Has he signed it? Reports are he hasn't. But anyways, he got absolutely blasted by Ohio State today. It was 42-0 in the second quarter. Ohio State cruises 56-7 over Mel Tucker and the Michigan State Spartans. Luke Fickell, he would have to do something catastrophic to mass up a playoff performance. It looks like the first group of 5 team will punch its playoff bid, 48-14 over SMU. Well, I would say if he's in the playoffs, it's going to be incredibly hard to actually pull him to LSU. Brian Kelly, another name that people got on their radar, 55-0 over Georgia Tech today. Dave Aranda takes care of business over Kansas State, 20-10. Lane Kiffin, who fresh off his trip to Baton Rouge last night, by the way, to go see Arch Manning and company, 31-17 over Vanderbilt. And almost got the TKO for Lincoln Riley today that you would need to truly take OU out. 28-21 over Matt Campbell, who we've heard a lot of buzz over. Iowa State drops to 6-5, 10-1 for Oklahoma.
And there's some people who still debate Matt Campbell even though he's got 5 losses.
Yeah.
Is he a guy that you should really look at? But I think when you start getting to Matt Campbell, then it's like, how can you go Matt Campbell and dismiss Billy Napier? Because there's a growing interest in Billy Napier. And of course, it's been there for quite a while.
I've heard some people say it's harder to win at Iowa State than it is at ULL because it is just absolutely in the middle of nowhere. It is a desertous cornfield, and then there's a university.
And the talent pool, frankly, is not there at Iowa State.
Not there at all.
And
the only advantage they have is that
Sun Belt. In the Sun Belt, you're playing some really awful teams.
Exactly. So the only advantage you really have at Iowa State is the fact that you put P in front of the 5.
Mark Towery, as I said a few weeks ago, Napier is LSU's next coach.
I would say that's the absolute bottom. Like that, you're not going to go below Napier. You know what I mean? Like, and that's if they hire Napier. I don't think either one of us feel terrible about that.
Kenny brings up Oregon and Michigan State losing today means Choklahoma is back in the playoff hunt.
Yeah.
So tough to get Riley. Well, I wonder what the CFP is going to do because do they all of a sudden, because of Oklahoma and their past history and how they've looked at times this year, are they tempted to move Cincinnati ahead of Oklahoma?
Oh, Cincinnati is ahead of them. Oklahoma, they do not like Oklahoma. Oklahoma's 13 right now.
Right. So who's moving up now? Ohio State's
so 1 and 2. One of these 2 teams will be in the playoffs. Bama, Georgia. If Georgia loses to Bama, it's probably both of them. Okay. I expect Georgia will smoke Bama. Then you got Oregon, who will fall pretty far at 9 and 2, who's number 3. Ohio State taking care of business. You expect they go on. Cincinnati at 5. They should have be slid up into the top 4 now. Then you've got Michigan, who has to play Ohio State. One of them will make the playoff. Michigan State's going to plummet. Notre Dame at 8. Do they sneak in? Oklahoma State at 9.
I think they're going to take every opportunity they can to move somebody at every opportunity ahead of Oklahoma.
I think so too. Well, you know who else? Baylor is ahead of them at 8 and 2.
Yeah.
Ole Miss is ahead of them at 8 and 2. And Ole Miss, by the way, could be sitting there at 10 and 2. sitting out of the SEC championship, and they might just get slid in just because if enough crazy stuff happens. There's a lot of teams. Wake Forest was ahead. They, of course, lost today. So, man, I don't know. I think it's still a long shot for OU, but to even get there, OU would need to beat Oklahoma State or Baylor in the championship. I'm not exactly sure the standings, which one of them they would have to beat, but regardless, they're going to have to beat two good football teams.
Blaine Smith, St. Thomas More looked good last night. Yeah, they did. I thought that was going to be more of a game. Kudos to Liberty to kind of make it interesting in the third quarter. But really, I think it's going to be a U-High St. Thomas More state championship game again, and the favorite certainly is going to be U-High. St. Thomas More's defense gives up a lot. But yeah, some very interesting football games last night, to say the least. And I've still got some footage to put together on that one. And certainly Walker Howard didn't have to do much. He at the end of the night, I was actually shocked he threw for over 200 yards.
Yeah.
And Caleb Jackson had a nice big run. And my girl Jo was up at East Feliciana. I've got an interview and more from that game. So
here's a question. Walker Howard, of course, December 15th deadline. There will be a coach in place. Is there any chance he's not an early signee?
No, he's an early signee.
Okay. And you expect 100% to LSU unless there's a coach
unless
he doesn't like.
Yeah, they would have to hire.
They would have to bomb the hire. I think any of these names we talk about, you get Walker Howard.
Anybody we've named, they would be happy with, I believe.
Okay.
Blaine Smith probably will have quite a few unavailable players next week. Yeah.
I had quite a few unavailable players this week. Y'all, one thing that was just kind of a surreal moment for me, Max Johnson walked off a little gingerly after that fourth down stop near the goal line. And I sat there and thought to myself, is freshman walk-on Matt O'Dowd about to come into the game? I mean, you remember in the spring when we were looking at 4 legit scholarship quarterbacks who we thought all 4 were capable of winning a game, in between transfer, injury, possibly Max Johnson getting hurt in a red shirt, having none of them available? That would be the story of this season.
That's why I get in arguments, and me and Buddy have gotten into arguments the last few years. You think you're in great shape when you got 4 quarterbacks, and you almost never have that there.
No. When it comes time for season, yeah.
It's a luxury if you have 3.
I think you need 3. I think you need to have 3 legit scholarship quarterbacks. It's tough,
but
with
most
the transfer
people
stuff
most people
nowadays.
are operating with 2.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the real world of the transfer portal.
Yep.
They go out, they find places to play. They don't want to stick it out any longer.
And Johnny Johnson, what are the odds that Max Johnson is at LSU next year and Nussmeier? Man, look, you don't know what's going to bring. There's probably, with each of these coaches that we talk about who could get the LSU job, there's probably a scenario or a little bit of soap opera that comes with each and every one of them.
Yeah.
Who knows? Is there a past relationship?
Yeah.
But it makes for an interesting spring football practice and wide open quarterback competition. So we're going to see.
Here's the thing. When a guy with more eligibility than you beats you out, that's usually when you start packing your bags. So like Miles Brennan, Max Johnson has somewhat passed him up on the depth chart. He is entering the transfer portal and moving on because
I don't see right now. Look, we can sit here and think Max didn't look good here, there. As of right now, and knowing Walker Howard's coming in, I'm still saying Max Johnson is your projected starter.
Yeah,
I'm not. I don't think Nussmeier's nipping on his heels right now.
Well, and I think what it is with Max Johnson, again, statistically, good night. 22 of 33, 312 yards, 2 in the air, 1 on the ground touchdowns, no turnovers. What it is about him is I think most of his snaps are unremarkable. They're just kind of mundane, average, whatever, but then he gets a few just big strikes downfield, and those pad the numbers. And in between, he's not having terrible downs. So It wasn't a truly impressive game. Where, like Joe Burrow, every single throw was impressive. With him, very few throws are truly impressive, but at the end of the day, it's a pretty decent stat line altogether.
Blaine Smith, I think you're right. Ohio State offense versus Georgia defense in the national championship is the matchup everyone wants to see. I think those two teams are obviously the best two teams in college football right now.
And I don't really think it's close. I don't understand why Bama's number 2.
Yeah. We're getting the benefit of the doubt, but they've looked lousy every week.
Yeah, the playoff committee this year, I don't know.
I say lousy. Lousy by Alabama standards.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. I mean, they're a good football team, but they're not that same Bama. And the only reason they're as high as they are is because of the logo on their helmet. I mean, they probably deserve to be in the top 5.
Fire 3449 brings up exactly what we're talking about. How do people think Alabama is so good when they gave up 35 points to Arkansas? And again, that's also kudos to Sam Pittman. He's getting a lot out of that his football team, a lot less talented roster, and he makes every game to where they're not embarrassed.
Yeah,
where Arkansas fans should be proud of their football team.
Well, and to me, the thing with Bama is how often are we going to give them an excuse? Oh, well, they struggled. It was a struggle win. How we keep on acting like they're not playing to their potential. When are we just going to sit there and realize maybe this is just how good the team is?
Yep.
Boy, LSU fans, y'all better be rooting for Oklahoma State this week. That's all I got to say.
I want to talk about our sponsor, Kenneth P. Haynes. And, of course, we're here each and every week thanks to Kenny. And, of course, he's a 1989 graduate of LSU, Paul M. Hebert Law Center, 30 years of experience in family business and personal injury litigation, over 15 years of experience as an assistant district attorney handling all post-conviction matters. He's been lead counsel on everything from complicated rollover accident to a simple divorce to a death sentence appeal. He's board certified in family law since 2004 and board certified in appellate practice every year the specialty has been offered. He served on the Specialization Advisory Committee for Family Law 2 full terms, and he's currently serving on the Specialization Advisory Committee for Appellate Practice, and he's the vice chairman. He's an invited speaker to LSU's continuing legal education, and he's a proud founding member of TigerBait.com. He's a big participant on our Tiger Den message board, and he's referred to often as the unofficial lawyer of TigerBait because he always reserves the right to think most clearly for a paying client. Give Kenny a call, 318-222-2100. Of course, they're on 912 Kings Highway in Shreveport in that beautiful old historic building on Kings Highway. And so if you have any legal needs in North Louisiana, anywhere north of Alexandria, whether it's divorce, personal injury, whatever you need, Kenny can take care of you. Give him a call, and he's your man. So we're glad to have Kenny be our sponsor each and every week, and super guy, and I'm proud to call him a good friend. So there you go, Kenny. I think Kenny might still be in the chat.
It might be past his bedtime. It's a little past our bedtime, don't you think? It's late.
Yeah, Chuck Girard. Hold on, guys. Chris Petersen would be the big fish. You know, we were all talking about Chris Petersen very, very early on, and it just got to the point where everybody was saying, and anytime you would call somebody in the Northwest, you know, what's going on with him? Do you know the situation? And just about everybody said that guy will never coach again. He's not interested. So I think everybody's just dropped him. We just gave up and not even following him, not even listening to him. And you wonder if maybe Scott Woodward is some people just thinking of every possible scenario. Is Scott Woodward figured out a way to get him to come back into football?
You're right, and you know you see the context why it would make sense. The thing that stands out to me is if he was the guy, there'd be a lot more buzz around him because he's a free agent. There is nothing inhibiting him. If he were to come with a contract and he were actually interested in coaching a football team and he said, and Woodward were telling him, come on in, man, we'd already hear about that.
See, the other problem is and then he's a guy that people can pick apart. If you're someone who's adamant that someone is from the South, someone who's recruited the area, someone, who they're going to get on their staff. You're going to have a bunch of people who really pick him apart. Why did he retire? What's going on with him? Why did he leave the game? Is he into it? There's very few stories like Dick Vermeil where somebody comes out of retirement and has big success.
Right. Well,
but he was a whale of a coach.
Urban Meyer came out of retirement.
That phony baloney.
Kind of like twice he came out of it. Yeah.
He's a jackass. Joseph Thaddeus Giot, 5-star Walker Howard stays committed to LSU. Yes, he is.
Yeah.
I don't think you have to worry about Walker.
We don't expect that to change unless there's
and look,
failure.
I think whether it's Walker or Will or Emery, Citizen, any of the commitments, I think they know, or they're very confident, like the fan base, that they know that that Scott Woodward's going to hire somebody pretty darn salty.
Yeah.
But it's like, because this has just been, it seems like the calendar is moving so slowly. Everybody wants to know who the coach is going to be yesterday. And I think that those kids, and particularly their families and their coaching staffs in high school, I think that's where the anxiety comes from. So the sooner it happens, the better off it's going to be. But I'll continue to say it. I think anybody we've named, I probably the only one that I was adamant against was Jimbo. And even he's not a bad coach. I think there's so many the names that we've talked about could absolutely be 9-3 coaches at a minimum at LSU. I think they're all good coaches.
By the way, I hear a lot of people talking about Urban Meyer like coaching at LSU, and I just want to address. I was not talking about him coming to LSU. I was just contextually filling in.
But then the question is, okay, if there's a bunch of them that go 9-3, who's the guy that with a little bit of something extra that's going to get you in the playoff picture? Every 2 or 3 years, possibly win you a national championship, once every 5 or once a decade, whatever the realistic, to
me, the answer to that, there's one name or bust. That's what I think. I think there's one guy who stands out above the rest as the guy who will consistently get you to that playoff mark. That's what I think. Now, there's plenty of coaches who can sometimes get you there.
I think Lincoln Riley, Mario Cristobal, or Brian Kelly could all do it. Although I don't think Brian Kelly is necessarily a fit here, and I don't like his age.
Yeah. Now, how often we talk?
I like
a playoff.
I like
push.
the 40-something coaches and Lincoln Riley being 38.
Let me ask you, what's the bar here? How often should LSU be?
That's
in
one
the
of the biggest sales points for me for Lincoln Riley is 38.
Yeah, very young, very innovative, very adaptable. Will grow with your program. I think if you hire him, that is a Saban-esque, not to over-exaggerate, it's Saban-esque hire.
And look, I hate ageism. So, Brian Kelly, I'm not knocking the guy for being 60 or whatever he is.
Didn't you call the opposing coach the guy from Up tonight?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, that was kind of ageist.
It was, because I'm used to seeing Terry looking like Buster Brown when we were calling him Tater Tot.
Yeah, I know, it's wild, isn't it?
And now he's like the guy from Up. I mean, his hair, it's like...
Yeah, no.
But at least he's got a full head of hair. I'll give him that.
But, I mean, it's not really ageism to say you want a guy who can grow with your program, bring energy, all that good stuff. I mean, there's actual pros that come from being an established, successful coach at a younger age. There's just pros to it, period. Yep. He might coach your program for 30 years,
Eric DeLion, Mike, can you talk about the Nussmeier situation? Because I'm really suspect about him being so-called sick. He probably is just making sure he's going to keep his red shirt. I don't know what this illness was or whatever today. But I'm all for him keeping his red shirt. I don't think he should have played last week.
Ryan Thibodeau with a super chat. You might want to check that one out.
Mm-hmm. Boy, I'm missing a bunch of comments. Hold on, guys.
Oh, are you? Okay, well, look. We'll let him get to it. He's just talking about defensive coordinator hire. He wants Georgia's defensive coordinator, co-defensive coordinator Glenn Schumann.
I got it. Yeah, but why would he leave Georgia?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. You know, a name I heard that to me made a lot of sense. Georgia defensive analyst Will Muschamp, possibly as a defensive coordinator. That's the kind, he was former assistant at LSU. He's good friends with people at LSU. I remember when Muschamp got fired the first time from Florida. I was in the LSU athletics department sitting next to associate assistant athletic director Michael Bonnet. And he just sat there real sad and said, man, that sucks. There's a lot of people Muschamp is good friends with. That is who I would go for first if you're talking about defensive coordinator. I don't care who is the coach. Go after him.
Ryan, by the way, thank you for that super chat. Big time.
Thank you, Ryan.
Eric DeLion, Saban like hire. Give me a break, Mike. Tell that guy next to you that Saban barely had a winning record at Michigan State before he came to LSU. Yeah, and that's why I'm not ready to toss Matt Campbell to the dumpster because he's got 5 losses.
Yeah.
I think he's a whale of a coach. But if you're like Scott Woodward, who's never known to be a miser with money, and he's been famous every stop he's been as an athletics director for spending a lot of money and acting like it grows on trees, then why not go for the splash hire that you're going to break the bank for, and particularly when you've got a bunch of big donors who are going along with it and pledging money towards his endeavors.
So here's the question: are you denying that it would be a Saban-esque type hire, like that kind of a grand slam? Like, well, but it's a big deal,
but you don't know that until he gets here and does something like that.
Yeah,
you know.
I think it would be.
But I mean, when Saban got rolled out, people were going, "Who?
Yeah,
that guy that was we were all making fun of and was a jackass at the Independence Bowl, and yeah."
I don't know about that. I remember when Saban got hired, and man, let's put it like this: my pops talking to me as a little kid when they hired Saban, he said, "This guy's going to win a championship."
Oh no! Once the press conference started, it was over.
Yeah.
Yeah, but initially, the first
when they announced it, I remember people like, okay, yeah, DiNardo beat him in the bowl game. Hush now, okay. I was old enough to remember them beating DiNardo, Saban in the bowl game. I remember that. But
I remember the Halloween run as a zygote.
The minute he laid foot on this campus, people kind of knew like there's a new sheriff in town. This guy's doing something. And look, Michael Clayton talked to me about it on my show earlier this year about how LSU hadn't even won games yet in 2000 when they were recruiting him. They were still kind of struggling. And Nick Saban, he's like, dude, I could just tell with Saban that something big was coming. So all them guys in 2001 signed up and won a championship.
Ryan Thibodeau, I'd rather Napier versus Campbell. Chuck Girard.
Yeah, I agree.
I would rather Napier over Riley. So there you go.
Yeah, I think you might be in the minority there.
Adam Ahmad, guys, how does Jimbo keep getting great recruits when he runs a 1950s offense? Well, I mean, look, Texas A&M is a big school. Yeah. They're an SEC school. They pack the place, tradition. There's a lot of excitement there. I mean, look, I'm not going to crap all over Jimbo. I don't like his offense. I think of all the coaches we talk about each week, his offense is probably, and his play calling is probably the closest to Les Miles of any of the coaches on the list. Joseph Thaddeus Giat, do y'all think the new coach will keep Corey Raymond, Mickey Joseph, or Kevin Falk? No, I don't.
I think we see a total clean house. I
think the whole house should be cleaned. Yeah. I really do.
Yeah.
And when I get into this with people, it makes people say, "Oh man, you're crazy. You got to keep Corey." I disagree.
Or if you keep a coach, who do you keep?
I don't think you keep any of them.
Right. No, I get that.
I don't want.
I'm just asking who's your first one you would keep.
I don't want to make a case for any of them.
Yeah. Okay. All right. There you go. That's a non-answer, but we'll let it slide.
No, because I think you need a clean house.
Yeah, I get that.
And by the way, guys, there's some politics with a lot of these coaches.
Yeah.
Okay. You keep one particular coach, and not only are you keeping him, you're keeping some other stuff that comes with it. I'm gonna leave it at that.
Oh, goodness, man.
Bless
I was
you.
fighting that one.
Juan Hearns, Woody is going to hire someone no one is talking about. It's going to be a huge bombshell.
Yeah. Well, I
Might be.
Here's the thing.
And I'm going to love it when it happens.
How do you hire someone nobody's talked about at this point? I've heard over 50.
Bill Cowher out of retirement? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's just no realistic way it's someone nobody's talking. Maybe someone who's been lightly talked about, like Mario Cristobal, that I could see. But
Well, I drop. By the way, I continue to drop Cristobal's name every week.
yeah,
So-
you and J Boy are the only ones. By the way, J Boy's going to be on my show Tuesday.
J Boy's stealing my info. Jake knows I give him the business.
Yeah,
Um,
good guy, by the way.
Brian Williams, once again, the refs were terrible in the Alabama game. I didn't watch most of that game. I had it on in the background.
Well, I saw the touchdown they called where the receiver had the ball on the ground out of bounds in the back of the end zone. Yeah. Bama gets some love when it matters. That's the thing. They always like to pull up the mass data. Like, okay, it's about when it matters. I really don't care about your celebration penalties against, New Mexico State.
Speaking of unavailable players, do we agree that Scott Woodward has to get rule changes and new compliance staff? Example, Aranda, a Cali guy, saw firsthand how weed policy costs us players and should insist on there. By the way, there will be changes. And people are going to immediately say, oh, isn't that convenient that there's changes right after Orgeron's been fired? But the changes are coming. And no longer will players miss games. Watch that new policy get rolled out next month. It's coming. That won't be happening anymore, guys. David Stingley, if Riley comes, get Dan Mullen for offensive coordinator. Yeah, those two would mix.
Dan Mullen.
Nobody likes Dan Mullen.
Yeah, he's a tough personality to click with.
Yeah, Derek DeLion, all I know is please, God, don't let us pass up the next Steve Spurrier like we did in the early 90s. Actually, it was the late 80s when LSU hired Mike Archer.
Well, LSU passed on Steve Spurrier again, if I'm not mistaken, because the same year LSU hired Les Miles, he came back to South Carolina, if I'm not mistaken. It might be 1 year off or something like that, but I believe LSU went with Les Miles over Spurrier, and
Yeah, Blake Ruffino, Mario Cristobal losing tonight, Mike, with a bunch of three eyeballs.
I know, that door.
It's all coming according to my masterful plan.
Well, and look, if OU wins out, man, you might be right.
You guys know I'm playing right. I mean, I like Cristobal, but I've always said I'm not married to him. You bring out Lincoln Riley, I'll be just as happy. Leonard Sarasota, Woodward went whale hunting, and all he could find were Ralph Freegan and Mark Mangino. I don't know. I don't think it's going to get that bad.
I mean, look, we're naming a lot of good football coaches. I mean, look, I'd say there's 5 or 6 guys, good hires. Like you'd rate them as good hires. I just personally think there's one name that stands out above the rest.
Adam Ahmed, how about Mike Gundy? He's a man. He's 40, not anymore, though.
Yeah, he's like 53.
Yeah. Look, I'm already having a hard enough time talking about Matt Campbell with the curved build. It's so curved. The curve comes in where his eyebrows are actually wider than the curve of his hat.
Yeah.
Okay? I have a problem with the fully straight, and then I have a full with,
Yeah.
don't go to the extremes. Can we have a slight curve, kind of like what Jay Johnson does, like our buddy Blake Ruffino wears?
That's what I.
There's a lot to be said about the curve of the bill of your baseball cap that tells me a lot about you.
Okay, but are you going?
So in other words, I have a hard enough problem with Matt Campbell's curved bill.
Like the C curve.
So the mullet is even worse than that.
Wow, that hat is terrible.
I'll take the hat over the mullet.
All right, do you take the C bill or the flat bill?
I like a curved bill.
So you're going
Like one of the ones that are the
you're going with Matt Campbell's C-shaped
not
bill
that.
over the flat.
That's the worst. That's the guy who drove the lowrider pickup in the early 90s with 4 15-inch woofers in the back.
Yeah.
Gold chain, and he tight rolled his pants. That's that kind of curve.
I prefer my coaches.
That's actually Tiger King curve. Tiger King wears that curve. Okay?
Joe Exotic. Yeah, that's true.
Yes, he did.
That's 100% true.
All right. Now, that's enough of my ball cap etiquette.
Look, that was way more entertaining than the football game tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, because what's the coach, O'Sullivan at Florida? What's the baseball coach of Florida?
Yeah.
Flat bill. Totally flat.
Yeah.
Uh-uh.
Baseball
Especially with his pie face.
It's too, yeah, I'm about to say, yeah. If you get that hat sweaty and you're actually working out in it, it should curve a little naturally.
Yeah.
Ruffino drops Mark Magino. Boy. Hey, he took
Brandon
the Jayhawks
Reese,
to the
Mullen
Orange
makes
Bowl.
more sense for a change. Look, we clown on Dan Mullen. That dude's a good coach, man. Someone's going to get a good coach wherever he ends up.
He's just a jackass.
He just needs to find he's going to end up somewhere, though.
Personality-wise, look, I mean, depending on who you bring in, I'd say if you bring in a Lincoln Riley, you don't need to bring in an offensive mastermind like that. Because honestly, you can get a young coordinator with Lincoln Riley.
Dude, you know who else?
Lincoln Riley can tutor him.
Who else? Who was the skinny guy on the shoot 'em show with the Gators?
Oh.
The skinny kid. There was one skinny guy that was the Indian that had the curve cap.
I'm
curve.
blanking here, man. I don't know.
Man,
I need to catch
I'm
up on my
starting
redneckology.
to have mental pictures of the guys that wear them crazy curves.
Man, you are really obsessed about these crazy curve hats.
That's when you dip your cap brand new in the sink. You get it wet. Then you get a baseball or a tennis ball, and you wrap the bill around the ball, the small ball, rubber band it, and then you put it in the freezer. That's how you get that curve.
I don't think Matt Campbell actually does that.
And I think
he holds his hat
in
his hand.
Then
like
I think
this.
you get the skull can in your back pocket indention where it's kind of bleached around where a skull can is in your back pocket.
Yeah.
That comes with that too.
Yeah, like in your blue jeans, you got a little ring there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Classy.
Yep.
I don't want to hate on any fans in the
Or
show.
Copenhagen.
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 It's usually Copenhagen.
Yeah, nice skull.
Yeah.
They graduated from Skull in the 6th grade.
I was kind of sitting there thinking, I was like, I don't know. I don't really know many people with a skull pack back there.
Well, they were like we did little bandits when they were in the 7th grade.
Isn't it like Timberland, Timberwolf, something like that? The other one that's
Kodiak. Yeah, that's 7th grade. Sherwood Junior High School.
It shows my dip in knowledge there.
Yeah. Chad Brewster, you're not getting Lincoln. Give it up. All right, Sooner Schooner.
Man, you know, what's funny to me is anytime anybody comes with a comment that strong, either way, by the way, because any LSU fan saying LSU will get Lincoln, that's foolish too. But if you're taking it that strong, your agenda is not to be objectively analyze the situation. That's just pure fact. So a lot of OU fans are a little too strong on this, and it kind of comes off a little foolish to me.
Mm-hmm. Eric DeLion, Ryan, I don't think Bobby Baldwin actually never coached a day in his life. He's like Coach O. He was nothing but a program manager. I remember when Steve Spurrier used to call him out for that. Carl Alexander, I like Aranda guys, but I do worry about the offense being a bit conservative. But Max could use some structure on his mechanics.
Yeah,
I'm all for LSU going with an offensive coach.
Yeah, and that's Woodward's MO. Not just in football, by the way. A lot of his coaches he's hired in all sports have been offensive minds. A lot of guys argue you should go for the defensive mind because they just feel like it's easier to find a good offensive coordinator to pull you up. There's something for that. I think LSU needs an offensive mastermind. That's what I'd prefer. But if you'd settle for the defensive mastermind, cool.
Leonard Gage, Napier can hold our recruiting class together and land new recruits immediately. I tend to think, look,
you only have
that depends on who his coordinators would be. Certainly, I think there's probably several. If he were the guy to get the job, I think there are multiple guys on his staff at UL Lafayette that would join him. Mm-hmm. You know, let's say, for example, Jabbar Jalouk, who was the running backs coach at LSU years ago. Of course, he was the former head coach at Carr and Coach Aaron Anderson's older brother. You know, is maybe that a little trick to maybe get Aaron Anderson back in the fold? I don't know.
He'd be a tough one.
Yeah, I think that's
That's a tough
That
stuff.
ship sailed.
But look, you've got 14 players committed. That's roughly half of recruiting class. The dudes committed, like the 14 guys who are set to come, they've stayed committed without a football coach.
I think
they're probably solid.
I can probably look at each coach and say there's a bunch of them that if you hire them immediately, your recruiting class is going to get a nice bump.
Yeah.
Because of and just knowing who those coaches are in the territories at that school where they're at, usually recruits.
Yeah.
The recruits where there's some overlap, where they're recruiting some of the same kids that LSU and Ed Orgeron have been recruiting. And, of course, I've made the case for over a month about Cristobal and offensive linemen.
Now, there's a lot of kids in state, like Quincy Wiggins comes to mind, right? Good player who probably as soon as you get a coach, you've got a good chance to get them in the fold. 14 players committed right now. If you just had to guess after they get the coach, how many players do they end up signing versus leaving spots open for grad transfers?
By the way, I was at the Madison Prep St. James game Thursday night, interviewed Quincy. You can still find that interview on the front page of TigerBait. And there's one thing Quincy did bring up, and it's absolutely true. Talking to sources at Madison Prep, Ed Orgeron and Andre Carter have done a fantastic job selling LSU to Quincy, and that it's the place he needs to be. And I just think once the new coach is introduced, I think Quincy will be a Tiger. And so,
no, wait. That's throughout Orgeron being fired. To clarify for those watching, like he's saying he did a good job.
yeah, he's still doing it.
Yeah.
They're still they talk daily. I mean,
Well, yeah, and I talked to DeColdis Crawford about it afterward. I said, "How's the recruiting been from LSU?" And he says, "Yeah, it's still good."
Yep.
And
No,
by the way,
they are recruiting.
DeColdis Crawford, one of the nicest kids I've ever come across in recruiting. I really like DeColdis Crawford. Good kid,
Yep.
quality young man.
So yeah, the Ed Orgeron and the staff need to be given kudos for that. But of course, I mean, look, they're getting paid to do that.
Yeah, no, I mean they are. They're doing the right thing. Good for them. And I think he enjoys it. And I think Orgeron will retire and probably be an ally for this program. I have that as a strong suspicion.
Chad Brewster, LSU fans are funny. Okay, Chad, I'm hitting the dumpster button on you.
Man, Michael Dumpia in this chat, man.
Good night. You're done.
I love him. I'll bring him on and I'll say, look, man.
Yeah, I don't know. I've had enough of you.
So, hey, check this out. 63-28 was funny.
12:45 in the morning. I ain't got to put up with anything.
Did you see Kenny's comment? 63-28 was funnier.
Yeah. Yeah, it was.
Got him.
Yeah.
Hey, look, all I got to say, LSU's got 3 national championships since OU's last national championship. No recruit has ever been born to see OU win a championship, and LSU's 2-0 against OU since then. So,
Jared Guillory, if Oklahoma State beats OU next week, is that when Scott puts the Riley deal on the table? Look, that whole thing, that verbal stuff is like, it's one of those deals where like, oh, well, I never offered him that deal.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's all that is.
So, and I suspect, of course, our friend of the show, Jake Crane, J-Boy Show, reported the 8-year, $96 million. I don't think he'd go out there without knowing it was offered. Now, he did not say if it was
and by the way,
a written offer or not.
When I say this, I'm not taking a shot at Jake, but it's not hard to figure out what the dollars would be on all these coaches.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're seeing what the market's putting out right now.
Yeah, sounds about right.
And if it's a guy like Lincoln Riley, all you have to do is look at what he's currently making. He's got a great job. So in order to hire a guy that's got a great job, you've got to overpay to lure him to your place.
And by the way,
that's in any line of business.
Talking to my OU people, I've talked to many of them. I've talked to at least 3 OU sources who believe OU would not match an offer like that. Now, they might come up a little bit. They can. They have the money to do it. They just won't. They pride themselves on being fiscally responsible and not doing the dumb thing. So, there you go.
Joseph Thaddeus Guillot with a blank message. Joseph, I'm assuming you sent us some stars. I was told by my buddy Blake when we see a blank deal that someone sent some stars. So if you did, thank you for that.
Just drop the comment again so we know to put that on the screen.
Yeah,
But thank
yeah.
you so much, Joseph Guillot.
Yeah,
Appreciate it big time.
American Patriot. I watched the UL game tonight, and the camera showed Napier on the sideline. The announcer said, he won't be around here much longer. Well, and look, and it's not just going to be LSU. With all these jobs opening up, someone's coming.
You know, I heard a lot of people say Napier to Miami. That's another name that was popping up for them. Man, I think Napier would do well.
You're gonna think I'm crazy, but I would tell him to stay at UL Lafayette over Miami. But now if he gets offered Florida, that's different.
Well, a lot of coaches have struggled. A lot of good. Remember Al Golden when he took that Miami job?
Yeah.
His stock was so high, and just nobody's been able to win at Miami. So I don't necessarily disagree, but yeah, no, Florida for sure. But he reportedly Napier turned down Auburn last year. Reportedly. I don't know why, but apparently he's looking for some high-profile jobs.
Leonard Sarasota, his buddy been drinking from the fountain of youth lately. He's looking much younger. Not better looking, though.
Ouch, man.
So, man, he took 2 shots. He took a shot at Buddy and you at the same time.
I know. I'm uglier, but
Leonard
younger,
Sarasota is the master of shade.
I just hope I sound smarter.
Yep. Carl Alexander, where's Damone Clark on draft boards? Kid is big time. I think when Damone Clark, whether it's a Senior Bowl or Combine, when he tests and they see him physically and in person, and when they do the interviews with him, and of course you see the interviews he does with us each week, I think the sky's the limit for Damone Clark. And in the right system in the NFL, I think he's going to be a big-time NFL player.
I'd be shocked if the first 3 rounds and he's not gone.
And by the way, someone, I don't know who it was earlier, said about naming coaches who should be retained. You didn't type Blake Baker. I mean, look at the way the linebackers have come on this season.
It's especially toward the end of the season.
And then, is Durante Jones helped himself any?
I think Durante Jones and Blake Baker have shown promising futures.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not Durante Jones isn't going to, be retained. I don't think. But is Blake Baker a guy you need to talk to because he can recruit?
Yeah.
So if you're going to name names, you need to throw his name there as well. Carmen Allen, I prefer Aranda over Riley. Knows the lay of the land, recruiting, expectations. He's a defensive genius. Bringing in a top offensive coordinator equals winning formula. I talked to David Smoke with 365 Sports. Of course, that's the Baylor site in Waco, and become real good friends with those guys. And I tell you what, man, you were talking about if LSU would be a dirty word. They went and took Mulkey. They went and took Mulkey, and then they would go get Aranda.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. They would not be happy about it. They were pissed off about it.
I think LSU, in their book, LSU as an acronym would pass NCAA. Yeah. So
I wouldn't mind Aranda. I mean, he's very bright. I think preferably you'd like to see him sustain success a little longer. But if you think he's that brilliant mind, the next big thing, go get him. Go get him. I would not be upset with giving Dave Aranda a shot at all.
Well, guys, thanks for tuning in tonight. I'm going to end the show tonight. It's getting a little late. Thanks to all of you who participate. Thanks for the super chats. Thanks for the stars on Facebook. Preston will be back Tuesday night. You said you have Jake Crane as your guest. Buddy Sanji will be back with me Wednesday, although we are kind of mulling around maybe moving that show. We either might go Tuesday night an hour before Preston, so it might be a doubleheader. We might even go Monday night. But right now, as of now, we're going to stick to Wednesday night at 8, Thanksgiving Eve. So just pay attention, and I'll put out info on that. So go to TigerBait. Brian's story's already up. Preston's story is halfway done. He's going to add some quotes to that. Ed Orgeron video is up on the front page already. And we're going to be following this coaching search the whole rest of the way. Go to TigerBait.com and subscribe. We want to have you as a premium subscriber. You're going to get our breaking news, text alerts, newsletters. They're going to be going out next week. And got a lot of recruiting content from the games that we shot this weekend. Of course, we're going to be back out next weekend in the playoffs. I'm mulling over a few games next week. So good night, everybody. Thanks for participating with us.
Night, y'all. See y'all Tuesday night.